Hey everybody, welcome back to Prince's Friend, exploring music through Prince. I'm your host, Aloy, and I have with me my friend Chris Lacy, who has been here many, many times. You guys asked for him to come back, so we are here discussing PlectrumElectrum and Artificial Age. Thank you for coming back again, Chris.
No, thank you. I'm ready to get into this next one. Let's go.
Very cool. Now, I don't know how many people know this. I think I've said it several times on the channel, but not everybody watches every video. I understand. But Artificial Age is my favorite Prince album. And that slot gets changed around every so often. You know, for a long time, it was the Gold Experience. For the longest time, it was the Gold Experience, until I guess until Artificial Age came out. So there's a lot to discuss on this album, but I'm going to hand it over to you real quick, Chris. Okay. Tell us about Artificial Age, how it came to be, maybe some conceptual things behind it. Let's discuss generally the album.
Honestly, I wasn't really able to find much information about what inspired the record. Mm-hmm. It just kind of popped up alongside PlectrumElectrum, and we're like, oh, okay, well, we're getting a double dose of Prince. sign me up, you know? So, but what I think was interesting is for him to kind of show a side of him that we hadn't seen in a while, as far as, he's embracing, the more electronic elements that have become real dominant in the 2010s. Yeah. When it comes to dance pop records, but then also, reverting back to some of that throwback soul and R&B that I think he did an amazing job of displaying throughout the 90s, which I know tends to get overlooked by a lot of folks. But I kind of feel like he kind of took different elements, and I was going to save this towards the end, but I'll go ahead and say it here. I think Artificial Age takes the best elements of Love Sexy, Emancipation in 2010 and throws it all into one unique sci-fi kind of journey, and you're just like, wow, that's amazing that he was able to take all those elements and make it make sense.
I would definitely agree with that. It was definitely, in my opinion, it was definitely a mashup of electronic elements and whatnot, but had a lot of funk in that. Yeah. Had a lot of really interesting lyrics, and there was a message there. There was every song, it was kind of leading itself down this rabbit hole. And the whole thing with Artificial Age, I think part of the reason why it is my favorite, I feel like all of the songs that are awesome on it are just they were almost all just pointed right at me. They're all, sexy, great wordplay, interesting, flow of the lyrics themselves, and again, we said in the last video, I'm a huge fan of songs that kind of go up, kind of go down, kind of take you in different directions. And none of the songs on here do just one thing. They all kind of they start off here and then they end over there. It's you didn't stay here. You didn't stay here the whole time. You were I'm over here. Now I'm over there. Even just if you just say Breakfast Can Wait and you're just why is there a chipmunk voice on here? That's crazy. I thought it was just I remember the first time my wife heard that song and she was like, is this song a joke? What is that voice? It was going. I thought it was a joke because the voice. I'm like, no, he just likes to play around. It is that. It has a lot of that, but you can also feel there's a lot of emotion in it. Mm-hmm. You feel like Prince is saying something on this. It's not just, it's because he has some albums where it's just I felt writing about the times, and I felt like writing about what I see, or I feel like writing about, hey, everybody, let's get down on the floor. Artificial Age felt like he had something super important to say on this album. So that's how I feel about it. And it always just really vibed with me, on an emotional, soul level. Yeah. So I really love the album. And kind of with PlectrumElectrum, he was releasing singles before the official release.
That's right.
Since I looked up the other one, I went ahead and looked this one up. So Breakfast Can Wait was released 2013, February 2013, and then The Breakdown was released in April of 2014, and then Clouds was released a month before the album.
Right, because I believe he kind of officially rolled it out when he played at SNL. I think he opened up with Clouds and then he finished up with Another Love.
That's right. Yes,
I remember staying up late for that. And I'm like, yo, I like both of these songs. So like if this is what the album's going to sound like, then I'm excited. So,
yeah. And there's something about Clouds that, and maybe we'll get into talking about songs in a minute, but there's something about Clouds where it's just like, it sounds amazing on the album, but I didn't like any of the live performances that I heard of Clouds. Like, I heard him perform it like 2 or 3 different times on different like talk shows and stuff. And I'm like, it just doesn't sound good live. Like, I don't know why.
Yeah, it's I agree with you. Like there unfortunately there are just certain songs that are best suited as studio creations.
Yeah.
So I would say that Kiss is a really hard song to do live because of the way that the guitar sounds. Like there's this very high end guitar sounds, and it's really hard to kind of mimic that wiry guitar sound that you hear throughout Kiss.
I've heard Kiss performed live during like many of his different tours with different bands, and like he pulls it off sometimes, but like the majority of the time, you're right, it's just like it always just feels slightly off because it's not that song. It's like an interpretation of that song.
Mm-hmm. Which, and like you said, it's surprising to know that a song like Clouds doesn't necessarily translate that well live, because there's a version of Joy and Repetition that he did during the Emancipation era that I thought was just like, he captured the vibe and the energy of that so well. It's like, if he's able to do Joy and Repetition, how come he can't do Clouds? But like you said, it's just something about the live, translation of it just didn't quite mesh with me either.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, sorry about that tangent. I know I just said it's my very favorite album, so let me talk crap about it. I think the big thing here was this is where Prince started bringing Joshua Welton under his wing.
That's right.
So that's a pretty significant part of this album and like how it came to be and whatnot, because Prince was trying to kind of like what I said in the last one, like he's like, I got my guitar person, I got my bass person. But Prince produces an album in a certain way. So he kind of brought Joshua under his wing. And not only was he kind of learning more of the modern way of producing, but he was teaching Joshua the old school way, like this is how you actually do it, right. Like, yeah. You guys do it all this different way now. This is how you actually do it. And I think that the meshing of the two styles, I think worked really well for this one and Hit and Run Phase 1, which is also where, Joshua kind of took the reins on that one. I think more so, like this one was like his training ground, and then Hit and Run Phase 1 was just like, all right, so let me see what you can do now that I taught you, So I think honestly, that's a big deal, because I think up until this point, like literally, I think Prince produced everything.
Yeah.
So the entire fact that this album had a different feel, and it's because it had a different producer. There was another voice, there was another feeling to making this album, and it wasn't only Prince's. So Prince got to just kind of focus on the music and the message, and somebody else got to kind of pick up some of the slack in the production side of that.
Yeah. Great point about that, by the way, of being able to take essentially 2 generations and their own ideology of how they make music and making it mesh together, trying to make them coexist peacefully. Yeah. I think that Artificial Age successfully takes, I guess, the more digital laptop era of Joshua Welton's generation, my generation, I guess you could say, and taking that warmth of analog and the more organic elements of music with Prince, and you making it mesh together. Yeah. Now I am going to push back about Hit and Run Phase 1. I think that album is practically unlistenable. There are a couple songs on it I like. What they did so well with Artificial Age, it seemed like they lost sight of that. Maybe I think he kind of gave, Joshua Welton too big of a sandbox to play in, because it sounds so digitized that it doesn't have the same heart as Artificial Age to me. But
I can't disagree with you. I mean, it definitely has a different feel, and that's because he, took the reins more primarily on that album. Yeah. I'll definitely disagree with you on the unlistenable, because I listen to it all the time.
Unlistenable to me, like
no, definitely.
Yeah. No, so it's pretty cool. That's cool that you feel that way about it, though. That's great.
Yeah, no, I dig the album. It's not, I don't think it's his best album. I think Hit and Run Phase 1 was really good, and it definitely did feel different. And you're not the only one that I've heard who has said like, it didn't feel like Prince, so I don't like it. And I'm like, yeah, it didn't really sound a whole lot like Prince. But honestly, I felt like that was something that I liked because, again, like I am so about people experimenting. Like I love it when bands do different things. Like I listen to Korn. Not everybody knows that I listen to Korn. I don't know if I've said this before, but like every other album of Korn's is an experimentation. You know, so it's like they have one that's like Korn, and then they'll be like, and now we're gonna do this over here. Okay, but we're coming back. We're gonna just be Korn now again. But now we're gonna go over here and do this. But now we're gonna come back. We're just gonna be Korn now. And it's just like every other album, I'm like, that's really cool. And then I'm like, oh, and then the next one's like, I mean, it's Korn. Yeah. But what are you gonna do next though? Let me know what you're gonna do next. So for me, it was like almost like that with Prince, where it was like, it did feel different. It did add in even more of the modern production style. And like, you know, in one of the songs, there was like a dubsteppy kind of feel to it and stuff like that. And it was like, it was different, but it wasn't not Prince. It didn't feel like 100% Prince. It felt like 80% Prince. But I dug that 20% because I'm actually a fan of some of the more modern production styles and stuff. And it was interesting to see that integrated into Prince's own style. So anyway, that's Hit and Run. We should probably we'll come back now to Artificial Age.
Yeah.
Here's something I didn't, because it's weird with Prince. I stopped looking at like where Prince's albums chart and stuff. Like I look at that stuff when I'm going to do discussions or if I'm going to do, reviews and stuff, because I feel like that's important information to give in a review. But for the most part, I mostly ignore that stuff as just, a listener. Because I don't care where, as long as I have it to listen to it for me, I don't care where it ended up on the chart.
Yeah.
But I did see here, it got to number 1 on the R&B albums chart. It got to number 1 on the R&B and hip hop albums chart. And it got to number 5 on the US Billboard 200.
That's right.
So those are like respectable numbers.
For sure. And I don't know if a lot of folks know this, but when I was with Albumism, my introductory piece on that website was for Artificial Age, because at that time I joined Albumism shortly after Prince had passed. So we all got to pick an album that we wanted to write about to celebrate his legacy. And I knew everyone was going to go for the 80s stuff. So I was like, you know what, let me go against the grain. And I'm like, you know what, I love Artificial Age. So let me write about that.
Very cool. I mean, that makes me respect you even more, even more than I already do. What is your favorite song? So again, we're separating favorite from best. So what is your favorite song on Artificial Age?
Oh, now here's where it gets tough, because like there are so many songs I could pick from, but the first one that comes to mind is Time with Andy Allo.
Okay. All right. Tell me definitely about that. Tell me about that. Love
that song. Their chemistry on record is so refreshing. It's so great because there's even a little moment there where Prince talks about keep you in my little cage, dealing with an animal half my age, and then Andy kind of laughs in the background. I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing out here. So like just that little play, the playfulness of it, I love.
Yeah.
But then even the instrumentation of it. The drum beat has like this kind of military like vibe about it, but then the sense, like they really kind of swell it. It reminds me of the ending of really the beginning of I Know, and then the end of Positivity is like it's got that swirling effect, like it just kind of just swells and you kind of get lost in it. But then lyrically, just talks about wanting to spend time with the person that you care about, but Prince is on the road, and they're just communicating through their phones, and they're seeking that human interaction that often gets lost in technology. So I think that's another theme that recurs in other songs, that it all kind of comes to a head on Time, and it's just. And then another thing I absolutely love is his bass work. I mean,
the bass on that one's great.
You almost feel like he's like channeling like his Larry Graham, because like the way he just like thumbs the bass, it's just oh my gosh, it's great stuff. and the song is like awesome. What 6.5, 7 minutes long.
Let me see. It is 6.5. Or no, it's almost 7. 7.
Yeah.
It's 6 minutes and 49 seconds.
Yeah. So to have a song like that, time is right up there with automatic. Like you would think that a song like that, you're like, man, it's bound to get boring somewhere, but it never wears out its welcome for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good choice. That's a good choice.
How about you? What's your favorite?
My favorite is, That's actually my very favorite song, I think, in general. So like when people are asking me like, what's your favorite Prince song? I say, if they ask me what my favorite Prince album is, I say Artificial Age. Yeah. So it's like, and I think I love Artificial Age for, has a return kind of to like really unique beats. Like I always love Prince when he comes up with like a beat that like comes out of left field, like you never saw it coming. Undisputed, like things like that. And I feel like, is like that. And on top of that, like I said, the lyrics and the wordplay and like the way that he's like saying it very fast, but it's also all very comprehensible. I love, it's a great song. I think from beginning to end, it's just great. And, it doesn't like overstay its welcome. Like it's like the perfect length. It has the perfect instrumentality, the perfect number of words, and it plays on a lot of assumptions. Like it plays on the assumptions of like relationships. Like, that I care for you, but I realize that there's all this other stuff kind of going on and blah, blah, blah. But like, though, right? Like,
Yeah.
Like, and again, it's one of those kind of like, I love the way he wrote it says those things, but it says them kind of without saying them. Yeah. It's more just description versus just flat out saying it.
Right. And I'm glad you said it, because there's a moment, I think it's in the first verse, whenever Prince is like, yeah, and then you hear Mila J go, like, I think that's a great little 1-2 there. So speaking of Mila J, most folks may not know this, but Mila J was featured in his Diamonds and Pearls video. She's one of the little girls in the video. So to see it all come full circle where he's sampling her, it's like, yo, that is so dope.
Oh, that is pretty cool.
Yeah. So
I did not know that.
Yeah. She's one of the girls that's dancing around in the Diamonds and Pearls video.
One of the ballet dancers or one of like the little girls?
One of the little girls. I think she's with Rosie Gaines whenever she's singing the chorus part. I think that's where she is. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at that now.
Yeah, you should. So I made a comment earlier about Prince's track record when it comes to rapping. I love his approach to rap on this song. Yeah, absolutely love it. It's just like his flow is like like I just love that. Like it's a great flow to it. Like I said, him sampling Mila J, like I love the way like he kind of interacts with it, but still kind of builds his own thing out of it. And his harmonies are so rich, all throughout the song. And
harmonies too. Harmonies are a huge deal with me.
Yeah, a
lot of the songs that I really love from Prince they have really good harmonies, like this one, 7 For You. Yes. Like the songs that have those really, really amazing harmonies, those are the ones that stand out, I think, a lot for me.
For sure. So yeah, like in the chorus, it's like it's kind of like this wall of vocals kind of coming towards you. He's like, how much I want you. Like it's just like he just kind of weaves in and out, and it's a great song. So that would probably be my second favorite. If I had to choose, like it's right there neck and neck with Time for me.
Very cool. I don't think Time is my second one. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I like the song. It's just I don't think it's on the upper echelon of the songs for me.
That's
so then the next one that we do is what is the best song on the album?
You want me to go first, or you want to go?
I can go first. I have like 2 answers. There were 2 that immediately came to mind, and that's Breakfast Can Wait and Way Back Home. So I'm going to say Breakfast Can Wait. Wow. So okay. I feel like that one is probably the best one. And I think it's because it has, you know, the funky bass line, the scratch guitar. It's reminiscent of, you know, songs like Kiss, playfulness of Adore. You know, it has that same vibe of some of his old school songs. But again, kind of brought into the modern production value and his, like I said, his wordplay. And, you know, he's willing to, you know, say things even a little bit more plainly in this song. But then he's using, you know, breakfast metaphors as a way to kind of cover up how like blatant he is with like, you need to come back and like, we need to have sex some more before you go to work.
Yeah.
But again, he says it kind of without saying it, but then he also says it. But if you say it and you're kind of in a chipmunk voice, it doesn't come across as like, it doesn't come across as blatant or as like simple, you know. He always would find ways to like again trick the ear and make you hear things in a new way, even if it's something that you've heard before. So I think that one, I think it's probably the best one on here. And I mean, probably for me, it's like number 3, maybe number 4 on there. But I think like if we're talking like song structure, commercial appeal, just the level of musicianship and songwriting and whatnot, I think it's probably the best one on here. Yeah.
And if we can give a quick salute to the fact that Prince had a great sense of humor by putting Dave Chappelle on the single album cover.
Yes.
I love that.
It was so funny. Like he didn't want to be in it at all because he put Dave Chappelle on a CD cover, and in the video there was a girl dressed up as him.
That's right.
So it's like he was just like, I don't want to do nothing with this. Like
Yep. Yeah. And you brought up some really good points about what it does musically. I think his bass work on this is also great.
Yeah.
It kind of gave me the Ballad of Dorothy Parker vibes.
I could hear that.
It's got very mellow tones. It's not overbearing in any kind of way. It's just like bum, 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 bum. Like it's just it just stays in the pocket and it's not trying to, you know, be overwhelming in any kind of way. And then like you said, lyrically, you know, like him using you know, the metaphors for sex, you know, like he's using breakfast food. That's just like that. That's just great. It kind of reminds me of Little Red Corvette. You know, like he used a car analogy.
Oh yeah, totally.
A car analogy to talk about sex, but now he's talking about breakfast food, and I'm like, yo, that's really clever how he did that.
And like I said, it has the similar vibe to like Adore, where it kind of brings, because so much of Prince's, you know, sexual songs are very much like, let's have sex. You know, it's just like, but it's fun every so often that he'll release like a, hey, you know, let's have some, you know, grits and gravy. Come on. You know, it's like, it's fun. You know, it's okay to have a sense of humor about sex as well. Like it doesn't have to be this completely serious thing, which was always something that I learned, you know, from Prince anyway, is that, you know, just as any part of life, there's times when you need to be serious, but then like have some fun with it too. Like it's all good.
That's a great point. You know, just talking about how fun intimacy can be. Like it doesn't have to be this over the top dramatic thing of like, hey, like we're really about to, you know, like really get into it. Like you can have fun with it. Like that's one of the fun things about being in a relationship with somebody is that, you know, they know you really well, you know them really well. So you can kind of find those moments and find those pockets of humor where it's like, hey, like, you know, we can cut up and have a good time. That's part of being in love. See, but like, he's not being disrespectful. He's just being playful.
Right. Not in a disrespectful way. Right. Actually, it's more of in a, like, it was so good. Let's do some more. And I'm going to be cute. Like, because, you know, and that's like, if you think of it in the context, right, it's just like, you know, you have to imagine the woman, like she's like, busy, she's getting ready for work, she's got to take a shower, she's got to make sure she doesn't forget her briefcase and all that stuff. Like you're not going to get her being that serious person. You're not going to get her being like, hey baby, you need to come back so we can have some sex. Like that's not. But if you go like, hey baby, I have a chipmunk voice, you know, it's like she'll be like fine, you know, and and it's cute, you know. I don't know, that's my favorite. So what about you?
Yeah,
what's the best one on here?
Yeah,
so we're done with favorites. This is best.
Yeah, your second choice was going to be my first choice, which is Way Back Home. It almost seems sacrilege to say this, but Anesthesia is like the gold standard, no pun intended when I say that, is the gold standard of him confessing and just pouring his soul on the record. but Way Back Home is just in line for the silver medal for me. Like he just,
wow,
the stuff he talks about, almost like he's like seeing himself falling asleep and is like he's having like this outer body experience, and he's wanting to look for this spiritual fulfillment of trying to fulfill his purpose in life, and just reflecting on the stuff that he's been through, and try not to get emotional here, but when he passed away, like that song was right there with Sometimes It Snows in April for me, where it's like you reflect on his life and it really tugs on your heartstrings, because like when you look at everything that he experienced in life, and then it really makes you sit back and say like, man, like he did make his way back home, and he's lived several lifetimes in the one lifetime that he lived. But yeah, and just musically, I think it's Leanne LaHavis, and I forget the other female vocalist that's in there that does the background vocals, but
it says Delilah.
Yes, thank you. I love how their vocals, like, they're so rich and they complement what Prince is talking about.
Yeah,
the musicality of it, like it has like this has like this chugging element to it, and it almost kind of reminds me of not to get too weird, but it kind of reminds me of Sex in the Summer, like that. Like that ultrasound effect. Like, and I know it seems like a weird, connection to make, but just the sound effect of it, it almost sounds like his heartbeat, like his heart is seeking his way back home. So like that's deep.
That's deep, man.
Yeah, that's the connection that I made, and I may be on my own island when it comes to that, but that's the connection.
No, I don't think that you are. I think everything that you said is what I got from it, and it's such a well put together song. Like, it's so good that's why. Like, when I was thinking like best songs, I was like, well, it's either that one or Breakfast Can Wait. Way Back Home is like a little bit harder of a sell, but I think it's equally as good. But I had to pick one. Yeah. So, but literally either of those would have been my choice for number one. So if I didn't pick it, I'm glad that you did, which means both of my choices ended up winning in the end. It makes me double right, and I'm okay with that.
Talking about least favorite song.
Okay. Oh, least favorite song.
Yeah.
So least favorite song, I would probably say What It Feels Like. Yeah, I know it sucks. I think only because though it is weird structurally with the rest of the album. Mm-hmm. So there's a story going on in the album, and it fits in very well there. However, I think musically it's so different from the other songs on the album. I think it's similar to Time, but I feel like Time does the job of both without having to have both.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
So again, like it's. Yeah, so again, it's like less of a, like, I hate to say worst song, but it's just like one that the weakest song on there. It's everybody on the top 10 is amazing. This one just happens to be number 10. I feel like too, like if you don't have like a grasp on biblical information, then you're going to miss some of the references. Which luckily I know stuff, but I really know a lot of what I know from listening to Prince. But again, I actually like the two of them working, because it was him and Andy Allo. I like the two of them on the track together, and I think that they play around with the track some together, and they kind of go in and out of each other's verses and whatnot. So I think it's a good song. But if you're forcing me, you're pulling my arm to pick like the worst track on there, I would probably say What It Feels Like.
That's fair. And a couple of, you brought some really good points. The biblical aspect of it, I really connected with, just because I'm outspoken about my Christian faith. But but I love that emotional tug of war that they go through, where Prince says, like, you used to treat me like David, but now I'm feeling like Saul. So like he's saying, like, there was a time that, like, you treated me like I was royalty and I was like the best thing ever, but now you're treating me like I'm your enemy. Like, what's going on? Yeah, kind of thing. So there's a tug of war there. Musically, it feels like something you would hear on Emancipation, honestly. Like, when you think of the different love, topics that he covered, the topics he covered about love, it feels like something that he would want to explore on Emancipation. Yeah,
it sounded like it could have fit pretty well on Emancipation Disc 1. I think here, again, I think it works really well within the context of the album and stuff. I just think, it's just not the best one on there. So again, you made me pick one.
It's all good.
What would yours be?
Oh boy. So we'll have to go with the Funk and Roll remix. Yeah.
No.
And here's the thing. It's like, I'm like you. It's like, it's not like, I'm not saying it's terrible. Inevitably, it is the one song that I listen to the least.
It sounded like you said it was terrible.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, I know. It's all good. Like I said, I prefer the PlectrumElectrum version because it really does sound like it's a true mix of funk and rock and roll. Mm-hmm. And this may be being petty, but I hate the fact that it breaks up the flow of Affirmation 1 and 2, Way Back Home. Then you have funk and roll in the middle of it, and then Affirmation 3. It's like, you should have made the Affirmations and Way Back Home all one track to me. To me, this is the heart and soul of the record. And now we're over here on funk and roll. And I'm like, this sounds like, why is it here?
I have an answer for that.
Go ahead.
But the answer is for the next video.
Okay.
But there is a reason for that.
Okay.
But I understand though, like if you don't look at it the way that Aloy looks at things, then I can totally see you're like, man, you're breaking up the flow. And I'm just like, but it's also not, it's also, okay, I can't wait to get to the next video.
Yeah.
But I feel you though. It does kind of break up the flow of it, and your argument makes a lot of sense. So it's kind of in a weird spot, and you prefer the other version. It's hard to say, I do or don't like a song if it's your only choice. It's like when I'm doing the 1999 deluxe review and I'm just like, you know what? This Feel You Up, yeah, you know what? I like the other Feel You Up better. But if this was the only Feel You Up I had, I'd be like, this thing is the best song. This is a great song, but I have a better version over there, so I'll go listen to that one.
Unfortunately, is the one song that I'm like, I could live without it. And just where it is in the sequencing of the album, to me, it breaks up that emotional flow that was established so well with Way Back Home.
I get you. Where do you think that the impact of this album and Prince's career, like his legacy, where does that fall for you?
To me, it stopped the narrative of Prince was only great during the 80s and then he fell off the face of the earth. Yeah. I don't like that narrative. I will say that there are some albums that were hits for me, others that were misses. So I get the fact that there was some inconsistency there based on personal preference, but to say that he just completely fell off the face of the earth as a musical genius is, to me, that's incredibly disrespectful for an artist of his caliber. Yeah. So I think Artificial Age just really silenced the haters of saying, like, look, for you to say that Prince doesn't have it, this album has everything that you want in a classic Prince record. And then that kind of goes into my second point, and I kind of mentioned it at the top, is that it takes the best elements of Love Sexy, Emancipation, and 2010, and the sci-fi concept, I think is really cool, as far as, him being in suspended animation and, trying to, kind of figure out, like he feels like he's in this out of body experience, kind of thing. It almost kind of feels like, this may be a corny analogy, but it almost is kind of like his own twist on E.T. in a way.
A little bit. I could see that.
Like he's outside of his element.
E.T.
He's outside of his element. He's trying to adapt to this selfie generation because he comes from the old school, and he's trying to, adapt to the environment around him. And musically, he's adapting, this into his own thing. And there's different things that I kind of take from it. But the last point that I'll make is that I do believe that Artificial Age deserved to be mentioned in the same breath as his classics that a lot of people love. Like I won't say it's in the same weight class as like Purple Rain or Sign of the Times or 1999, but it's yeah, that's fine. You can, and if you feel that way, that's awesome that you feel that way, because I love that record. If I had to kind of gauge it in a way, I would say if you were open-minded to Around the World in a Day, you should be able to love Artificial Age.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
I think the only difference between Artificial Age and those other amazing albums that you just mentioned, I think is the pop culture hype around them.
Yes.
Because honestly, if you could listen to Purple Rain and then listen to Artificial Age, and if you don't hear the greatness in both of them, and like if you were like, oh, Purple Rain's way better than that one, I'd slap the taste out your mouth. Like seriously, like you ain't got no sense. So
in terms of legacy, influence, and impact, where does this album fall for you?
Oh, man. I think for me, I think that this album was an example of, I think Prince being able to kind of do it all. not that he hadn't done electronic music before, not that he hadn't, touched on spiritual stuff, not that he hadn't shared his soul emotionally on an album before, but just the fact that he's doing kind of all of these things all at once on a single album, I think is important. And I feel like there's some hurt and some emotions here, but there's also some joy there. And I think because this is very largely tied to the fact that he got, his rights back and everything. And this was when, that the way back home was almost just like, this was the dream in the first place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's kind of like a full circle thing, him coming back around. I feel like this album was heavily pushed and promoted, because the deal with Warner Brothers did do some good. They do good record distribution and promotion and stuff. So it's good to have that on your back. I think this album, I guess, along with PlectrumElectrum as well, but it really helped him to kind of come back out and start defining himself as like the current like guru, Purple Yoda that he is. And, and it's one thing to like have an album that allows you to come out and like kind of, I guess, rebrand yourself or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then you would listen to everything that he would say, and then you'd go back to the album and you'd be like, I understand now what he was talking about. Right. Not just like, it wasn't like a tool, to get him to the stage. He's like, no, I'm here to tell you to go listen to that because that's really good. And you're going to learn a lot from that. Mm-hmm. Because like the affirmations are huge on there. There's a lot of like, it almost felt like, self-helpy, the album, which in a good way, like that's, because there's some self-help stuff out there that's kind of terrible. But like in a good way, again, being like my favorite of his albums, musically, theme wise, storyline, it's just everything about it is just like, it's just perfect in my opinion.
Good deal, man. Yeah. Gosh, I almost feel kind of weird even trying to give feedback because you summed it up so well. But I hope that people will revisit this album with a greater context based on what we talked about, and they'll have a greater appreciation for it.
Definitely. Well, I hope that they do too. We're gonna cut this one here. Yeah. And we're going to go into the next video in just a minute. But before we do, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, and, so that you know when we release new videos, kind of like this one. And these are fun videos. I enjoy these. But also check out our Patreon, patreon.com/PrincessFriend, and may live to see the dawn.